Mr. Chair and members, House Bill 2191 prohibits a person from publishing criminal justice records on a publicly accessible website for monetary and commercial purposes. If found liable for damages, the mugshot website operator will face a separate charge for every violation. In addition, the bill outlines exemptions for publishing and broadcasting news to the public for news-related purposes and acts by a licensed attorney, private investigator, or registered process server regarding an active criminal or civil proceeding. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions for our staff? Seeing none, the sponsor's not in the room, I don't believe. Is there anybody signing to speak on the bill?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Call them up.
Stephen Charbonneau?
Steve, come on up and introduce yourselves. Tell us what your name is and how to pronounce your last name and who you represent.
Hello, Mr. Chair and the committee. My name is Stephen Charbonneau. French-Canadian. I'm here representing myself. However, I do work with the Arizona Attorneys for Criminal Justice. I'm not a registered lobbyist.
Okay.
The reason I'm here today is because I've been personally impacted by this issue, and I've conceptualized it and participated in some of the work here at the legislature to move it forward.
Okay.
So what this bill does essentially is it prohibits what we're calling mugshot website operators from taking, most of them are using software that's called scraping software, and they're gathering bundles and bundles of criminal justice information, altering it in some circumstances. The way they're doing this is non-discriminate. It's if people are guilty, innocent. Most of these mugshot website operators are putting it up on these websites. Anyways, the way they're operating is that they're getting ad revenue from they're getting ad revenue from the websites after they're posting these mugshots and other criminal justice information. One other way they're getting how this is monetarily benefiting them is they're actually requiring that people will pay them to have their mugshots taken down. The number, the number you have to pay to get your mugshot down is varied. I've heard from hundreds of dollars to, I just read a Pew article that said mugshots.com was required one time that $15,000 for someone to take their mugshot down. So this is a national. There's a national trend of this going on. There's at least 15 states right now that have worked towards this to try to stop it. There have been issues with enforcement. Different states have taken different avenues. After working with different attorneys and other stakeholders, we've come up with this bill here. I would like to say that the bill is conscious of public safety. These criminal justice records are available through other mediums that are reliable and that have higher standards of publishing this information. Also, the bill is conscious of First Amendment rights. We've spent a lot of time working with the Arizona Newspaper Association as well as the Arizona Republic to make sure that they would not be affected by this, and we've added that carve-out in here. It's also conscious of judicial proceedings as well as private investigators. There's a carve-out for them as well. As I said, I was personally impacted. I'm 32 years old right now. When I was 17, I was a bit of a knucklehead and did some things I shouldn't have done. And I was arrested 2 days after I turned 18. My mugshot was taken. My criminal justice information was obviously published. It was scraped from different websites. Since then, I haven't been in trouble. How it's affected me personally is my nephew, who's 7 years old. We were at Mother's Day brunch one day, and he was on his tablet and he Googled my name, and the first thing that pops up at the top of Google is my mugshot and criminal justice information, and that was kind of thrown in his face, and that really had a negative impact on us. I understand that I did something and I have to pay for it, and I did pay for it. And since then, I'm in my last year of law school. I volunteer a lot in the community, and when I volunteer, the community looks up my name, Googles it. I mean, again, you could go and find this information if you want it. It's just the fact that it's shoved at the top of these search engines. that really causes a problem. So with that, if you guys have any questions.
Excellent testimony. I appreciate that. Members, any questions for our guest? Mr. Fonson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They're scraping from public accessible websites anyway, aren't they? I mean,
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's a question of what they're doing with it, I guess.
Mr. Chair and members, yeah, so there's lots of problems with this. So when a public entity is publishing criminal justice information, they're held to a standard to publish accurate information. One of the ways that people are harmed in this is the websites. They're not held to that standard. A lot of times they're posting inaccurate information or not updating the information. So if somebody was exonerated or found innocent, they're not held to a standard to update that information. So if
Mr.
somebody
Chairman, I
Yep,
would
Mr.
respectfully
Farnsworth.
disagree. Those are called libel. So you have slander and you have libel. You can't go out and say incorrect things about somebody that's going to hurt their reputation if it's false. So if they're printing false information, you already have a libel claim. If they're not updating to reflect accurate information, you may have a libel claim. You may not, because the information may be accurate, it's just not updated. But I don't know how I'm going to vote, Mr. Chairman, because I have some concerns that now we're saying that publicly accessible information is now going to be punishable if you put that and you regurgitate that information that's already available to the public. This could very well be a very slippery slope. I understand the concern. I understand the burden. I understand the mistakes that are made in youth and having those haunt you for the rest of your life. But what we're doing here is saying you can get this. This is public information. Nobody's doing anything wrong getting the information, but now we're going to say that you can't use it. So, and we're only dealing with commercial. If you don't charge for it, you can do the very same thing that he's talking about.
Right. It's
So-
only commercial, correct? If the company that's doing this is charging fees and different things?
That's the way I read it and understand it.
that's
But
how I-
again, that's a concern that I have, that we're kind of walking on a line here, in my humble opinion.
So the sponsor's not here. Steve, you're the only one that signed in to testify. How would you respond to that concern?
Mr. Chair and Senator Farnsworth, I understand that, yes, there may be a liable action for producing this false information. There's been lots of efforts to try to do exactly that, go to take civil action against individuals that have done this. I guess what this bill does is it prohibits, what in my opinion is exploitation and in a lot of circumstances extortion. There's also,
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
exploitation, extortion are already illegal.
yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair and Senator Farnsworth, that's true. That's true.
This is the point, Mr. Chairman, is that everything he's talking about, it's an actionable offense. We're now saying because we don't want to wait for people to commit some crime, we're going to try to make it easy and say, you just can't do it. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong. You're not saying anything incorrect. That's not what this bill says. This bill doesn't say if you post something that's incorrect. This says simply if you take information that's already public and you post it for money, you now are a criminal.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep, please.
Mr. Chair and Senator Farnsworth, the bill in front of you doesn't criminalize this action by mugshot website operators. It prescribes a cause of action and a remedy, and we did discuss criminalization and decided against that.
It's strictly the fines in the
That is
summary
correct.
in
It's
section
civil.
4, right?
It's civil.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Okay. So we did have two people, if necessary. If they're in the room, I would like them to come up. I'm not sure if they're here, though, but
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure, I don't recognize him. Marilyn Rodriguez? Or Samuel Richard?
not here? Okay. Okay. Yep. Members, additional questions you want to ask Steve?
Chairman, Mr.
Yep.
Contreras, I'm not going after anybody. I'm here for good policy, Mr. Contreras. At some point, I'm happy to tutor you. If you
Steve, thank you very much for your testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Yep. Members, we have no one else signed in, so we're going to move the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I move House Bill 2191 with a do pass recommendation.
Thank you. Members, there are no amendments on this bill. Is there any further discussion of the bill? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Senator Brawley? Senator Contreras?
Aye.
Senator Farnsworth?
Mr. Chairman, may I explain my vote?
Please do.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to vote aye today because I understand the concern, but I'm going to give this a little more thought. But I do have some concerns that we are going down a path that is somewhat concerning to me, where we say this information can be obtained by anybody, and it's not the commercial use of it. This is the other thing I have with the bill is that you have an inconsistency here. They don't like the way somebody's using the information, but they exclude all kinds of commercial enterprises, including media, newspapers, etc. So it's okay for that to be a commercial enterprise where they use the information in their name, but it's not okay in a different commercial enterprise. Now, the reason why I'm voting aye is because I abhor what these people are doing on the internet, and I need to give it a little bit of thought as to whether that justifies this kind of language. But I am very concerned that the path we're starting down, Mr. Chairman. So for today, I'll vote aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might explain.
Please.
Thank you, Senator Farnsworth, for bringing up those points, and it's given me pause as well. It was like, okay, I didn't consider that. So I am an aye today, but I too would like to look at this further and before I make my final decision
Okay.
on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to explain my vote.
Please do.
I would just like to say, Senator Farnsworth, if you have any language that could help this situation and make the bill better, I think that the sponsor of the bill and probably many in this room would be very welcome to that. But I too abhor what's going on, and I vote aye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Senator Pratt?
Aye.
Senator Nixon?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays, 1 not voting.
Thank you, members. By a vote of 7 yeses, 0 noes, 1 not voting, you have given HB 2191 a due pass recommendation.